Welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, discussing all the latest in Philadelphia sports.
All aboard the Wentz Wagon! Are you boarding that wagon, Philadelphia Eagles fans? I'm sure most of us are. After another nearly flawless performance by Carson Wentz, barring some drop balls, a couple throwaway balls, no turnovers, once again, en route to another convincing Philadelphia Eagles victory against the Chicago Bears team that had a chance to see Carson Wentz on tape, exploit him, and they failed to do so. Philadelphia Eagles are 2-0, ladies and gentlemen.
And now, here's Tyler Werner.
Are you boarding the Wentz wagon? For all those listening out there. Another win by this Philadelphia Eagles team, ladies and gentlemen. And, again, I sat here last week on the Tyler Werner Show. I didn't see a win. I saw a competitive game. I also saw some mistakes, coming out of Carson Wentz this game. They didn't come out, really. To my surprise, they had him on the Chicago Bears. You saw what he did against the Browns, or what he was able to do. They bring the blitz early on. And Carson Wentz, it didn't mean anything. Whether it's scrambling out of the pocket, avoiding the blitz, making plays, throwing the ball on the run rather well, I might add. Whether it's changing the direction of a running play because he recognizes that there's a safety blitz or whatever. Making pre-play adjustments. This is unlike anything we're used to. This is refreshing, ladies and gentlemen. And I gotta poke fun at myself, as I think many of us can poke fun at ourselves. Like, this time last month, before any of this, and just throughout the summer, it was just the tone of the Tyler Werner Show, the tone of the Eagles fan base was just mundane. If you've been listening, I think you sense that, and I think you sense an obvious transformation. Not just out of me, but out of the Eagles fan base in general. I guess to start off, I want to poke a little fun at myself and play just a sample of an August 11th edition of the Tyler Werner Show as preseason was getting started. And how I just, like many of us, just had a weird feeling, just to, I guess, set the stage for where we are now. And for how things have just, I know it's only 2 games into the regular season, but nevertheless, how the tone has just totally shifted here with the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. This is me about a month ago. It's odd. I'm glad football is back. Don't get me wrong. But unless something really shocking happens, I just wouldn't expect much. Last preseason, we all saw how it turned out and how things just went sour last season. But there was excitement every season the last few years, it seemed. Last season, there was intrigue all across the board with all this, roster turnover. How, Chip Kelly's, for him to properly cook dinner, he had to get his groceries. And of course, it all went sour. But just at the time, and you saw what looked like the Eagles were, about to have a breakthrough season. this. I mean, we just don't know. We don't know what Doug Peterson's gonna do. And I don't have this vibe that, that you had maybe with Chip Kelly, where it's like, well, he's got something new to the table, and obviously everything flamed out pretty much, and I mean, best of luck, 49er fans. But
was that like a wise ass comment?
But really, I mean, is anybody like looking forward to Sam Bradford being the quarterback of this team for the season, and then then going to another team after the season? I don't know. Is anybody excited about this running game? That again, Ryan Matthews banged up. All right, so you got to rely on the other guys to maybe do it. If Ryan Matthews gets banged up again and starts missing more time, which I'm sure is going to happen in the regular season. All right, that's enough of that. That was about a month ago. Just like, it's like, what do you say about this season? And it just, the last couple weeks, it's just been different with Carson Wentz. There's a feeling that he is going to be the guy. Now, yesterday, I mean, you can look at stats. I mean, he throws for one touchdown pass, 21 for 34 for 190 yards, 5.6 average as far as yards go. I mean, it's not... us watching the game and you look at the stats, I mean, it's not extreme fantasy numbers or anything like that. It's not that. However, first quarterback to win his first two games and not turn the football over, let alone the team didn't turn the football over the first two games. It's not all world defenses they're playing. But nevertheless, the Eagles getting it done in protecting the football while doing so. Not to mention, it's as if Carson Wentz is throwing the ball, and it's like there's never a close call with a possible interception that we've yet to see. Even when he hits, Nelson Aguilar in like double, triple coverage on that one pass last night, it was placed perfectly. It was thrown perfectly. And despite throwing into that heavy coverage, there was like no way it was going to get intercepted. There was no fear there of the ball being intercepted. Where it was placed, the speed it's thrown at. Carson Wentz, I know it's only 2 games in, but thus far, it looks like he's the real deal. He's had limited experience. Limited preseason, of course. They trade Sam Bradford and Carson Wentz out hunting for geese one morning or whatever, gets a call from Doug Peterson. You're starting. You're our starter. Week 1. Just only a few days, a week or so before kickoff to the regular season against the Browns. And the guy delivered. With barely any preseason snappage, if I could use that word, and the guy gets it done again. Again, these are not mind-boggling stats or anything, but and just for the record, between guys dropping touchdown passes, that should be theoretically touchdown passes, guys dropping balls that should be caught at times. we know who's, nevertheless, I mean, still, see the things Carson Wentz does, and there's hope, ladies and gentlemen, that this is the guy that the Eagles and we, the fan base, have been searching for years now. We've had false messiahs, if you want to call it that. I mean, Nick Foles, Sam Bradford, whoever was brought here, Michael Vick, although he had quite a season, where the Eagles, maybe had they beat the Packers in the 2010 playoffs in the wild card round, who knows? Maybe where they could have gone from there. Kevin Cobb. This whole carousel thing with the quarterbacks with the Philadelphia Eagles for, close to the last decade almost. For several years now. But as far as you want to talk about having tools and the mental capacity to play quarterback and be the franchise quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, it does seem as though this guy is perhaps the closest to having all of the above. It's so refreshing. It's like a recurring thought, a recurring, idea in my head. Refreshing watching this Eagles team, this Eagles this Eagles offense, that it's not like they're any better personnel-wise than last year. If anything, they may be inferior. However, you can maybe argue right now that Carson Wentz might be better right now than Sam Bradford is. And heading into this season, I didn't think that to begin. I didn't. Again, I said, I maybe scale it back a little more, but Carson Wentz so far is looking like he's ahead of the game. He's certainly not looking like a guy that barely had a preseason and limited college experience at one AA competition. He's not looking like that guy. It's 2 games in, but there were like no signs of him having any growing pains. Which I said, start him this season so that, he's going to have growing pains this season, and let him get through them now rather than next season. Well, so far, I'm waiting for these. It's 2 games in again. I keep saying that. They got a tougher opponent, obviously, this weekend in the Pittsburgh Steelers. One of the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year, with the offensive weaponry they got, of course. But still, these are like almost flawless games that Carson Wentz is playing. You go through the history of quarterbacks in their first couple of games in the NFL, and you see interceptions. You go on, you watch tape, and there's mistakes. But this guy Carson Wentz, so far, has barely made any real mistakes. And what I say by it's refreshing to watch Carson Wentz, it's refreshing to watch this Eagles team in general. It's refreshing because Carson Wentz assesses seemingly each time that the Eagles line up on offense. He makes pre-snap adjustments. which was apparently really not allowed last year in the recent years with the Chip Kelly offense here.
Was that like a wise-ass comment?
And it's not wise at all. It's reality. And I mean, it's not like, it's not like everybody's doing, the hurry up offense with little to no pre-snap adjustments to be made whatsoever. You got to snap the ball quick. It's not like everybody around the NFL is doing that, but we were the ones that had that offense here for a few, and as it just continued to get worse and would not move the football the way it needed to be moved, it became such a stick in our craw that we see what's going on now. We see a quarterback who, in an offense that is not in a hurry. They're not concerned about quantity. They're concerned about quality, it seems, when it comes to plays and, yada yada. What can we do this play? Not like, boom, 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 go, go, go. Carson Wentz is out there analyzing the situation at hand. He's making pre-snap adjustments. The guy is smart. He's making some great pre-snap adjustments. Changing the directions of running plays. Changing protection schemes. I mean, calling these audibles, it's working pretty well. Now, the first half, it wasn't by any stretch of the I mean, it's not as though the Eagles are an offensive juggernaut. All right? But I also then take into account that he's not playing with all-world talent either. That this is not an all-world offense when it comes to personnel. This is Jordan Matthews at wide receiver, decent. Dropping some balls that should be caught. Dorial Green-Beckham, he's got size, decent. There was no Zach Ertz out there. Nelson Aguilar, he's got some things to prove. Still, second year. Ryan Matthews, who so far is having a decent season. Darren Sproles, can make plays. Hasn't been all-world these first two games. The offensive line that is questionable, where Jason Kelsey on back-to-back plays is getting penalties. And, it's not all-world talent here. It's not, you got to start them on your fantasy team this week. Or every week, for that matter. It's not that. But credit to Doug Peterson for calling another pretty good game. And you know what? Coach Doug Peterson, he's got balls, and he's got confidence in Carson Wentz and his offense. I mean, look at, 5 for 5.
I agree.
5 for 5 on fourth down through two games. Most teams, they take the field goal in that early fourth down situation. But Doug Peterson, he had confidence, and it can't fault him for their fourth down attempts as they get them all. They've converted them all so far. So impressive stuff out of this Philadelphia Eagles team. I didn't even talk about the defense yet, but we're just, it's just the Carson Wentz story kind of just overtakes everything. And as he turns in another impressive performance against a team that this time All right, they had him on tape against the Cleveland Browns. They had a chance to blitz him, confuse him, throw him off, exploit weaknesses that he may have, inexperience. But Carson Wentz, he didn't look like he had an experience. And that's the irony or the ironic thing about this whole story with Carson Wentz becoming the starting quarterback this season for the Philadelphia Eagles and Sam Bradford getting traded to the Minnesota Vikings. We're hitting the first break here right now on the Tyler Werner Show. We'll be right back on the other side. Of course, we got look around the NFL a little bit, talk more Eagles football here as we move through this edition of the Tyler Werner Show after another Eagles victory and giving the Eagles a 2-0 start in the 2016 NFL season. We're back after this.
Hi there, I'm Hank Hill. Well, I'd like to tell you what Strickland can do to meet your energy needs. You see, at Strickland, the customer comes first. It's kind of interesting, the word customer begins with C-U. Well, we don't see you as just another sale, but as a member of our team. I thought you might enjoy 7.5 gallons of pure premium propane. Strickland Propane, the customer comes first.
#1 box office attraction, #1 WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're the future of interior decorator. I think we're done.
The champion of game day catering is the official meatball of the Tyler Werner Show, Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs.
We prepare our balls over time, and that's the essence of the preparation.
On top of that, another trademark of Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs is Brady's signature rubbing process.
When I pick balls out, to me, they're perfect. I don't want anyone touching the balls after that. I don't want anyone rubbing them. To me, those balls are perfect.
What is a concern is the texture of the balls, and again, that's the point that Tom hit on hard.
The champion of all game day catering dishes is Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs, the official meatball of the Tyler Werner Show. And we're back right here on the Tyler Werner Show. Another Eagles victory, 2-0 start. I know many of us had the Eagles losing that game, including myself, and no. So, we're kind of, already, I don't know. At least I'm recalibrating a little bit on this Eagles season, at least what they can, what they can end up being this season. And, I mean, because it showed me more. I mean, Carson Wentz showed me he's better than I expected him to be. So, I see the division too. The Redskins, they might be the stinker in the division this year. From last year beating, finishing with a 9-7 record that won the NFC East, of course. All their wins coming against 8-8 or worse teams, and being one and done in the playoffs.
You like that? You like that?
And they're at the bottom of the division right now. Not surprised. I had the Giants winning this division this year, and they're 2-0. Cowboys at 1-1. Dak Prescott, of course, starting quarter. And the Eagles are 2-0. You know, I mean, this. Then again, I mean, the Giants in their win. I mean, they haven't looked impressive in their wins. And I gotta say, I am disappointed in Eli Manning, as he was my fantasy quarterback this week. Throws for all those yards, not one single touchdown against a Saints defense that, you know, you would think with Odell Beckham Jr. and Victor, you know, maybe he would tear them up a little more, at least in the stat column, but that didn't happen. And that was one of the crucial setbacks of my fantasy team this week, en route to a loss.
I am pissed off.
As a matter of fact, I dropped him. Aaron Rodgers, of course, is my starting quarterback, and my first string quarterback in fantasy. And of course, against the Minnesota defense, I think Eli Manning had the favorable matchup, and the yards showed that, but he doesn't throw for one touchdown, and surely enough, that definitely hampered my fantasy team a little bit. Cowboys, again, they sit at 1-1. I just wonder now where the Eagles fit in with this mix. I mean, could they be maybe as good as the Giants? I mean, I don't know. One thing's kind of for sure, though. I think with the Eagles, it's kind of as though with the future, looking ahead, the Eagles seem to look the most solid at quarterback. Like Eli Manning, I mean, he's getting up there in age. And I don't know, it's like time's ticking for them, for him to do something again. And Kirk Cousins is now, quite a question mark. He's getting exploited. Dak Prescott, there's some hope that Cowboys fans have in him. But can he pan out? And here we sit, we look at Carson Wentz, and it's like, I think this might be the guy. And again, this is without any major wide receiver threat. This is without any weapons. I mean, Zach Ertz, I guess, is the closest thing. I mean, he's a good tight end. Maybe top 10 in the league, but, I mean, they don't have weapons. And yet, Carson Wentz is doing pretty darn good without him. Ryan Matthews, can he stay healthy? Darren Sproles, if you look at, Ryan Matthews, he ripped a 30-yard run last night against the Bears. And he also, of course, he ran in 2 touchdowns. But other than that 30-yard long run, he got stuffed. He finished with 9 rushes for 32 yards. So besides that, he was getting stuffed. Other than that 30-yard long run. Darren Sproles, 12 carries for 40 yards. Had a long of 14. So other than that one, he was getting pretty well stuffed. Wendell Smallwood carried 2 for 16, which is pretty not, that's only 2 runs, but still. Kenyon Barner, 2 carries for 2 yards. So they're using 4 backs here. Oh, and by the way, Josh Huff was in there for a carry and didn't get anything. And while I'm on the topic of Josh Huff, going over to the receiving core, Josh Huff, on top of getting 1 carry for 0 yards, he got 1 reception for -1 yards. And he continues to be the bottom feeder of the wide receiving core. Jordan Matthews, 6 for 71. Obviously a primary target this season for Carson Wentz. Trey Burton, coming alive a little bit in light of Zach Ertz being out. He had 5 receptions for 49 yards, and of course that touchdown. Brent Selleck almost had a touchdown reception on that one play. Other than that, he didn't have any receptions. But he almost had that touchdown, which was, and this is one of those plays you look at, and it was just almost the perfect throw. But the Bears cornerback just get a fingertip on it, and you could see Brent Selleck, he knew it was just about there. But you make that throw, and that's just about where the ball needs to be. And that's just, again, Carson Wentz, he's rather accurate. He's got an arm. He's rather accurate, whether it be on the run or in the pocket. If there's one thing you can take away from this game, it's that he's taken a few too many hits. That, maybe he's a little too, I guess, ballsy, if we can use that term. And
to me, those balls are perfect.
When it comes to scrambling and trying to, maybe get out of bounds a little more, maybe slide. I don't know. Now he'll take a hit and he'll get right back up. That's great, but it's just hopefully, I don't know, he can curb that habit a little bit. When you're in decent field goal range for a fairly easy field goal, and it's 3rd and 10, and you're scrambling, it's like there's no chance of getting the first down, but nevertheless you're trying to, and you're 5 yards short. It's just one of those things, you can throw the ball away, you can slide. The play is dead. There's nothing really to be gained there if you can't find a receiver, if you're flushed out of the pocket. You can, just go down. You don't have to get any more yards. You just gotta trust and hope that the field goal kicker does his job. So, if there's something you can, I guess, think about there, as far as maybe how Carson Wentz could prove that would be one of them. I know he's not playing against, behind the best offensive line, and I know that soon he's not going to have Lane Johnson out there, who, is able to still play, and I guess will be playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, and then I guess serve his suspension after his appeal, see if it's affected in any way. It's just one of those things. If that's RG3, that's like an automatic injury. But, as kind of evidenced by last week, when he got knocked out by the Philadelphia Eagles and hurt. So, if there's anything you could maybe say Carson Wentz can do a better job of, That might be one of them. But again, besides that, with not the most impressive wide receiver core or anything. Not the greatest running game. I mean, the running game did its job. Got about 100 yards. I don't know, maybe down the road, see what Wendell Smallwood's made of a little more. But for the time being, Sproles and Matthews, they are the bread and butter running backs. As a matter of fact, Sproles is getting more carries this game than Matthews. It's an interesting tandem of running backs that they have going. And they got the job done. And, Matthews, he's able to get some good touchdown runs, despite not gaining a whole lot of yards on the ground and getting stuffed a lot of times. Other than that, it's, he did what he had to do and pound the ball in a couple times. The Eagles' defense, which, I barely even discussed it, because it's just, I don't know, they're doing their job. Everybody's kind of doing their job on this team. Now, McKelvin was out. Nolan Carroll is it's not looking like what the Eagles had hoped he might be when he was drafted. And that continues to kind of be the position of concern for me on the defense. The cornerback position. No, they didn't really give up any, they didn't get destroyed on defense, obviously. They gave up on special teams. They gave up that, meaningless punt return. At that point, it was, the fans were leaving early in the fourth quarter. It's like they just knew, they knew that this game was over. They didn't have any confidence that the Bears were going to come back and put up a fight. That was the closest thing they did to maybe doing that. They got that punt return, but after that, they were dead otherwise. And it was kind of poor tackling out of the Eagles there, and letting Eddie Royal, kind of just take it to the house. That was disappointing. But in the grand scheme of things, it really didn't mean anything. It was just water under the bridge. But it just kind of reminds me that the defense only gave up 7 points. Really, then. And that's a good deal. Especially when you got Alshon Jeffrey out there. And, you had a little bit of weaponry in the Chicago Bears offense. But the Eagles handled them well. The front seven, again, does a good job. Brandon Graham is like the MVP of the defense so far this season. They create some turnovers, force fumbles, make some great, made a great interception. And they got pressure to Jay Cutler, and he didn't handle it the best. And then at one point, of course, too, then Brian Hoyer was brought out there. But nevertheless, the Eagles' defense, they're doing their job. At times they give up some disappointing plays that, sometimes poor tackling as well. But besides that, I didn't think they would keep the Bears that limited on offense as far as what shows up in the final score. So, and again, you take out that special teams play, the Eagles' defense, they gave up 7 points, really. There was a missed field goal as well, but still, the defense is showing up. And on a Monday night road game, couldn't ask for much better out of this Eagles team, out of Carson Wentz. I mean, what a great win. I feel like I just keep going around the same old circle. And speaking of going around the same old circle, we've reached the part of the circle where we take another break, and when we come back, we're going to go around the NFL. Take a little detour. Thoughts around the NFL. Top 5 thoughts around the NFL. Other games that happened that, of course, other than the Philadelphia Eagles and the stir they're creating, other games out there that are creating a stir in the NFL. With that in mind, we'll be right back after this on the Tyler Werner Show.
I'll have some skirt steak, some brisket, little piece of that New York steak, a couple of them steak fingers, and a burger.
You've known for a long time that you were going to have to get real about fat or stay real fat. It didn't get that way by accident or by some outsider's doing.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too. Is there any chicken fried steak left?
Your weight just keeps creeping up or maybe even shooting sky high.
3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee.
You have a decision to make. You know it, and so do I.
Yes, all right.
You need prescription diet pills or other diet aids to lose weight.
What is it about good sex that makes me have to crap? Guess it's all that pumping. Pump and dump.
Pump and dump. Never stop the pumping. Always keep her satisfied. Pump and dump.
You really jarred something loose, Tiger.
#1 box office attraction, #1 WWE superstar, multi-time WWE champion, Brock Lesnar.
Time to revamp your office space, eh? Looking for an interior decorator? Look no further than Brock Lesnar.
Now that's the way a real man uses a sledgehammer.
Out with the old, in with the new. Give Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman a call.
Mr. Lesnar, you're the future of interior decorator. I think we're done.
And we're back, and it's time to go around the NFL, as we always do during football season on the Tyler Werner Show. And ladies and gentlemen, we go down the list here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we start with the Seattle Seahawks, ladies and gentlemen. Losing to division rivals, the St. Louis Rams, 3-9. And are just unproductive on offense. Thomas Rawls, -7 yards for this team. You know, expected to have a good season after the way he looked last year in his rookie year. Christine Michael, I mean, he carried 10 for 60, but this Seahawks team just not the same, it seems, otherwise. And lose to the St. Louis Rams, who looked abysmal in Week 1. Case Keenum, starting quarterback. So I don't know. Seahawks a bit of concern, at least in the early going. Number 4, no Brady, no Gronkowski, no problem. As the Patriots, headed by Bill Belichick, beat the Miami Dolphins 31-24. As Jimmy Garoppolo did go down in the game, making Julian Edelman, as a matter of fact, a backup quarterback right now, believe it or not, on their depth chart. I mean, nevertheless, the Patriots were laying the smackdown, if I could use that, on the Miami Dolphins, and ultimately they hang on to beat them 31-24. Patriots 2-0 without Tom Brady out there, without Rob Gronkowski, and it's almost as if they're not missing a beat so far. Another good win for the New England Patriots. 2 down without Brady and 2 to go. Number 3, the Minnesota Vikings. Another division rivalry win here against the Green Bay Packers. 17-14, with Bradford, of course, starting the game. Stephon Diggs having a field day out there. Adrian Peterson hurt in the game, but it didn't really matter. The Vikings get the win at home. Start out 2-0. Always good when you can beat the Packers. Who are at least many people's minds, the favorite to win that division. But right now, the Vikings have the advantage. I bet Bradford's a little happier, though. He's got a little more weaponry out there in Minnesota. Number 2, the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Cincinnati Bengals 24-16. Again, another big division rivalry game here. There were a lot of them this week. And that is an important win with the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Cincinnati Bengals. As both teams have, been in the playoff mix, and you would think will be this year again in fighting over that division. And the Steelers strike first in that category with their 24-16 win. Steelers 2-0, of course, coming over to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field this Sunday. And finally, number 1. After losing in Week 1 to the New England Patriots, the Arizona Cardinals bounce back in a great fashion and pounce the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 40-7. The week before that, Jameis Winston had 4 touchdown passes. This week, 4 interceptions against this Cardinals defense that was out on a mission to not start 0-2, and sure enough, they come out strong against the Buccaneers team that looks strong in Week 1, get a big 40-7 win, and avoid an 0-2 start. So there you have it. Top 5 thoughts around the NFL this week. It was certainly an interesting, as it typically tends to be, it's an interesting week in the NFL. Some guys, Jimmy Garoppolo going down, Adrian Peterson going down, and just all kinds of interesting NFL action. And of course, it was great to see that the Philadelphia Eagles would close down Week 2 on Monday Night Football with a win against the Chicago Bears.
I agree.
So, I think for the most part, I kind of said all I could say about this game. This week, though, Week 3, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town. And in the Lancaster area, with ESPN 92.7/92.5, I will be doing an event at Mix All-American Sports Pub out in like Mount Joy, Manheim area. Not too far from the Lancaster area, where we will be there during the Philadelphia Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers game. As it's close to Central PA territory. I mean, to me, it's Philadelphia Eagles territory, but it's getting closer to that middle of the road area of Pennsylvania where you could have an influx of Steelers fans. So it should be interesting, and it's a tough game, and I think it's where, for the time being, maybe the Eagles, they take a loss here, heading into their bye, but they lose the game here, and they kind of get, knocked down to earth a little bit by the Pittsburgh Steelers that, could very well carve up the Eagles secondary. When you got Antonio Brown, probably the best receiver in football right now, it's bound to happen. Ben Roethlisberger throwing to him. So, but nevertheless, I kind of mentioned this as things were starting up this season. This season ultimately became a sit back and relax and just, kind of an evaluation year for Carson Wentz, where he's going to have growing pains, and so far he hasn't really had them. But when the Eagles start 2-0 and they get a win against the Chicago Bears team that I didn't have them winning. Many others didn't have them winning. That's just like gravy. And the fact that Carson Wentz has looked better than expected and just gives us even more of a positive feeling for the long-term future. It's all gravy again, like I say. It feels extra nice that he hasn't had growing pains yet, and that it's as though he's ahead of the game. And when your franchise the guy that you hope to be the franchise quarterback, the guy that you essentially said you hope is going to be the franchise quarterback, the guy that you move up to number 2 in the draft to get because you feel he's the franchise quarterback, when he's ahead of the game, you're ahead of the game. And your whole team seems to be ahead of the game because you solve the quarterback dilemma by getting the franchise quarterback. That's something you don't have to worry about every season. Now, unless he gets hurt with a season-ending injury or something heading into, he tears an ACL before preseason, before the regular season starts or whatever. Not to be a shot at Sam Bradford. Because, he held up. Bradford, for the most part, held up last year. At the second ACL, he held up. And is holding up so far since, so. But you get the point. It's a nice, and you build around them from here on out. That's basically the consensus, Now they have a little less in this year's draft. They have Minnesota's first round pick. They don't have a second round pick, if I'm not mistaken. So but. I don't know, and then maybe you sign a guy in free agency, you recruit a big-time wide receiver down the road who wants to have Carson Wentz throwing to him. It's little things like that. A running back, maybe we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how Wendell Smallwood pans out. Kenyon Barner, I don't know. These guys, question marks, of course, but the point is, if the quarterback is not a question mark, that's a good thing. And the fact that he seems as less of a question mark as I thought he would so far, as I'm sure many of us thought he would, that's more encouraging. Again, I don't expect this team to win the playoffs. I don't expect them to win this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, although that would be nice. And if they did beat the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, this town will go crazy. And it'll be another Boffo edition of the Tyler Werner Show after the game. I'm not there yet. Cool. We call our Jets. And I'm still in that, I'm in that mode. Like, if they lose this week, it's fine. It's, they don't make the playoffs this year, that's fine. Although it is interesting now, and you see how the other teams are in the division, and you wonder maybe, I don't know, see how the Eagles will fare against them. It just feels more like there's a mystery now to this season as to, maybe the Eagles can win this division. I don't know. Not that it matters. Not that they're going to contend all the way to the Super Bowl. Not, let alone the NFC Championship or anything like that. But just the fact that it seems as though there's progress in this town with this football team. It's just encouraging.
You got to open your heart.
And there's a sense we are starting to open our hearts to Doug Peterson, to Carson Wentz, to this Eagles team. So hasn't it been glorious on the Tyler Werner show today? I don't like, and I don't intend for it to ever, be this way. I don't wake up in the morning. I don't, fire up the podcast here, recording, thinking like, oh, we're gonna praise the Eagles and bada bing and hallelujah and everything is great. I don't think of that, because at the end of the day, there's still the whole, they're going to play Pittsburgh this week. They'll probably get knocked down a peg a little bit. A little more back down to earth. And that Carson Wentz, he's not going to look as great as he did the last couple of weeks. But then again, I don't know. Because if he does, then it's like, well, geez, I was fooled again. But I'm not expecting that every week out of him. But so far, so good. And that's the underlying theme here with this Eagles team. There's there's a sense of optimism in the air. And it's it's on both sides of the ball, and especially with your quarterback, it's encouraging to see what's going on with this Philadelphia Eagles team. Now we'll see how they fare against the Pittsburgh Steelers. See how the defense handles Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger. It's an interesting situation for this Eagles team that has a spotlight on them after the first couple of games here, especially with Carson Wentz. It's interesting to see how Carson Wentz is going to fare against the Steelers, as they play this game and then they have their bye week already. And quite frankly, it seems like too soon to have a bye week. It seems like we're just getting started here on what is starting out as an enjoyable season for the Philadelphia Eagles. Surprisingly, rather enjoyable. We'll see. I'm not expecting a win or anything here. I'm just in this kickback and watch Carson Wentz play, and this new, this back to the 4-3 defense. See how these guys do, and this guy, this receiver, that receiver. How Aguilar maybe comes along. How Dorial Green-Beckham maybe comes along. How Josh Huff maybe, catches his one ball for -1 yards every game, and But hey, he was a Chip Kelly pick, so.
Was that like a wise ass comment?
But you get the point. There's excitement in the air, and we're not expecting a great season or anything, but we're getting more than what we thought we would so far, and that's a good thing in my deal. That's a good thing. That's a good deal in my book. Because I'm fumbling over my words. With that in mind, it's the end of the Tyler Werner Show today. Tune in, Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show. Post your thought. Are you aboard the Wentz wagon? In the sense that this will be the guy. I am. And again, see who they put around him in the future. But for now, to me, it looks like this guy's got the tools. We just got to see it on a continuous basis here. And it's year one. Thanks for tuning in as always, ladies and gentlemen. And we will talk to you next time on the Tyler Werner Show.